G'day everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. So we are now entering the end of 2022 and it is now a good time to go over my early 2023 AFL ladder predictions. Now I did do this type of video this time last year and after pretty good reception on that video, I thought let's do it again this year. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're going to enjoy today's video and let's get into it. Okay, here we are everybody. So on your screens right now, we've got the ladder to the right hand side of your screens and it's just a pretty straightforward ladder prediction. I could go over like the Coal medalist and other awards, but I just felt that was pretty irrelevant. We'd rather wait until around March time, but I wanted to do an early ladder predictions because it's intriguing. I think we've got a few teams that could really rise up the ladder, a few that could really underachieve next year, and I just wanted to give my 2 cents at the moment on what I think the ladder could look like at December at the time of recording this video. So let's kick it off at 18th place, and for the 2023 Wooden Spooners, I reckon it will be GWS. Now there are a few other teams that I believe will be in the hunt for the Wooden Spoon, but I don't feel that there's a clear cut sort of last place side. I just believe there will be teams on the rise sort of next year. But with the Giants, look, a new coach, they've had a lot of outs and experienced players out of their side. They've invested in the draft quite heavily the last 2 or 3 years. A lot of lost experience too, with the likes of Taranto and Hopper, and of course Tanner Bruin and Bobby Hill. A few young players out of that side as well. They've got some names in there I really do rate. Of course, Sam Taylor coming off an excellent year. They still do have Cornelio, Josh Kelly, and a few draftees like Finn Callaghan that's yet to play. Tom Kring could go to the next level next year, but I'm just not really sold on them really chalking up that many wins. I just believe they will be cellar dwellers next year, and I've got them sitting at last place. At 17th spot now, I have gone with the Hawthorn Footy Club. Quite simply put, they have lost over 1,000 games of experience, and when that does occur, usually bad things tend to happen. You've got the likes of 𝘲𝐿𝐴 and Big Boy McAvoy and Tom Mitchell and also Jago Mira out of the side, and they've sort of replaced that with a few young talents like Cooper Stevens and Lloyd Meek. They've drafted really well the past 2 or 3 years. That's what I've liked the look of. They've got some exciting names in there, but I just don't feel with that blend of veterans and experience, I don't think they will chalk up enough wins in 2023 to be out of the bottom 4. They're most likely going to tank anyway because Harley Reid looks like the best prospect in next year's draft, and they'll just fit the Hawks side perfectly well. But yeah, a few young names I really like the look of. Mitch Lewis is a player that I really think could kick 50 goals next year. James Sicily could be one of the best key backs in the competition, but they're just really thin in multiple departments, especially in their midfield. A lot of young players, not enough experience. I don't think they'll be going probably past 16th, and I've got them at 17th. In 16th place now, and I do have the North Melbourne Football Club. I believe now this is the year they're going to start slowly but surely rising up the ladder. They have brought in the main man, Alistair Clarkson, and that does really sweeten things at the football club. And then with a few young players now getting another year into the system, like Luke Davies-Uniacke and Nick Larkey and Taron Thomas, I believe they will start to really get the ball rolling and maybe get a few more wins compared to the last 2 years as being Wooden Spooners. They've recruited really well in the offseason. Of course, drafted really well, but the likes of Griffin Logue and Liam Shields and Daniel Howe and Darcy Tucker into that sort of midfield and defensive areas, they've just improved sort of their role players. And I think, yeah, with the strong now coach of Alistair Clarkson, they will rise up the ladder quite decently. So I've still got them in 16th. I don't feel they have enough talent to be out of the bottom 4, but I think they can start to now shock a few teams and just slowly but surely play better football as a group. In 15th place, and I've gone with a bold call already in today's video, I believe St Kilda will be bottom 4 in 2023. It hurts me to say that. I think they're a far better side than a bottom 4 looking team. But teams underachieve, and I just feel like St Kilda will be one of those teams next year. You look at the likes of Ross Lyon, the head coach now of that football club. They drafted quite well last week. All things looking good, but I just think now they are a team that's just had a lot of mediocrity, not only the last 2 or 3 years, but the last sort of 10 years. They've played too nice. With Ross Lyon now at the helm, I believe he's just really going to rev up that group, put him through a really strong pre-season, improve the standards of that side, but that comes with a risk because they're going to probably play with a lot more intensely and just play angry. But the Saints sort of need that in a way with 2023. And you look, no matter how good or bad they start, I could just see him around that midpoint of the season just having a bit of a slump and just failing to get the ball rolling, chalking up wins and playing good football. And whilst Ross Lyon was at the helm at Fremantle, he'd love to play the youth if Freo weren't playing that well. And I think that will happen with St Kilda because I have got some good good numbers and good names in there that are quite young. So I feel like they're going to sort of have that developmental year, or sort of find their feet sort of year with Ross Lyon as the first year coach. But then 2024, if they've, you know, gotten the youth playing in, next year, they could absolutely catapult up the ladder next year. But I just feel like they're just sort of going to have an underachieving year, play the youth. But yeah, St Kilda 15th. They could finish anywhere, but just bottom 4, I feel like they will be. In 14th place, and I've gone with the West Coast Eagles. I believe they will rise up the ladder in 2023 and just sit outside the bottom 4. I think there still will be bottom 4 contenders, but the thing is with West Coast is they're a very successful and well-run football club, and whilst they are cellar dwellers, they aren't that sort of side for long, and I think 2023 they will really improve. Last year, look, there's just many problems with the list. A lot of premiership players and a lot of young players were out with injury, like the likes of course, Oscar Allen and Campbell Chesser. 𝐬𝐿𝐴 and 𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐿 were out, of course, with injuries too. I just think they're going to really reset as a group and play improved and better footy. Of course, another side that's going to really heavily play the youth, you know, Brady Hough and Jai Cully, names in there, like even Gimby and also Hewitt, they could really play next year too. I just think they're going to improve next year. The inclusion as well of Jaden Hunt to really improve their run and carry off halfback, I think will be a really solid inclusion to their side. The likes of Guff and Darling and McGovern, I just feel that they've still got another good 2 or 3 years left in them. So those decide not to write off the Eagles, I can still see them easily be a bottom 4 team, but I just got some sort of good gut feeling they're going to rise up the ladder somewhat next year, and I've got them in 14th. In 13th spot, I have gone with the Essendon Footy Club, another bottom 4 side from last year that I believe will rise up the ladder, and they, sort of similar to St Kilda, have a massive range of where they could finish. I seriously think they're a smoky for top 8, because they have a good, talented list, and I seriously do mean that. Some really good young players in there, like the likes of Archie Perkins, Harrison Jones, Nick Martin, Sam Durham, and Ben Hobbs. Really good names in there. And of course, Ridley's still young. They've brought on the likes of Wiedemann to improve their defensive ball forward, swingman sort of stock. 𝐓𝐡𝐞 drafted really well too. They've got some good, talented players in there, and I think like they're the 3rd or 2nd youngest list in the competition as well. They're just a side where their problems do lie is off the field. I think they lack a lot of standards and leadership, and I believe that they can really get that right. They've got good spirits heading into 2023. They can really start to build up and get a lot of wins, but I still do feel they probably just a little bit of a step away from top 8, but who knows? I think they're a serious smoky sort of chance for that sort of area. But yeah, I think mid-table, around that 13th spot, I think they're a lot better than a bottom 4 side, mid-table side for the Dons next year, I do reckon. In 12th place now, and I've gone with the Adelaide Crows. Now, this is a side for probably the past 2 years now. I've just been quite quick to write off. Last year, I had them around bottom 2, but they just really impressed me in 2022. They're a very young side, the 2nd youngest list in the competition after Hawthorn. And yeah, they just impressed me with how competitive they did play. A lot of their young players really did stand up, like the likes of Sam Berry, the most tackles out of any player in the competition. He really did impress me. Phil Thorpe, I thought, really had a good developmental year. You know, Paddy Parnell coming into that side, Schoenberg as well, and especially the likes of Jordan Butts, I thought he was decent, and Darcy Fogarty, the second half of his year was something special, and he could really catapult into a 50-goal a season sort of play next year. They've just got that young list now, competitive. The likes of Roy Sloane and maybe Laird with another season in his tool belt, and of course Taylor Walker as well. I really think they're now a tight-knit group, and they're just really going to accelerate and possibly chalk up a lot more wins in 2023. Possibly a bridge too far from that top 8 sort of position. They were 14th last year, and I just feel next year they're going to again continue just to shock maybe a few more opponents in 2023, rise up the ladder a little bit more, and with their young and competitive and talented now sort of players, of course Isaac Rankine on that side too, I think they will pick up a few more wins in 2023, and I've got them at 12th. In 11th place now, I do have the Western Bulldogs, and let me quickly state that the gap between 11th and 12th, I think might be maybe 4 or 8 sort of points. I think there's a bit of a gap there, similar to what we did see in 2022. But yeah, the Bulldogs in 11th, I don't know, just an inconsistent looking side. I don't know if they're just going to have that sort of, aggression and that talent to really strive and push them into a top 4, what they were sort of place side in 2021. Really inconsistent last year, and I just think that trend will sort of continue into 2023. You look at their spine, I think they've got the best young spine out of anyone's in the competition, the likes of Sam Darcy and Buku Kamis, and the inclusion now of Jed Busslinger, Hugo Hagen and Aaron Norton. I think those sort of areas look good, but I just think they're quite thin in a few role plays and a few plays around the ground. Of course, the loss of Josh Dunkley, the loss of Zane Cordy, so I think there's just going to be a number of liabilities in that side. Yeah, just an inconsistent side. I think there will be again in 2023. Maybe a few nice wins they will string together. They do have some really good talent in there. Of course, Treloar and Bontempelli through that midfield. Liberatore. Maybe a team that's going to contend for finals. I've just got them at 11th. I don't really buy into the fact they're going to rise up the ladder next year. Yeah, just 11th place for me. Inconsistent side, I do believe. In 10th place now, and I do have the Fremantle Dockers, another underachieving side I reckon will occur in 2023. Look, I do have to say I love Freo's season back in 2022. In my early predictions and predictions last year, I had Freo making finals. I thought they really could make that next big step into finals contention. They sure did do that, and look, they did get their finals win, but they did just completely sort of fall apart against a strong Magpies side. I just feel like with Freo as a whole, it's just a big question mark. I just don't buy into the fact they can really propel again into that sort of next level of top tier teams in the competition. Look, I think they're a really strong chance to make finals, don't get me wrong with that, but just the list changes they did have really leaves me with a few questions. I think that gap between 23 and 28 year olds, they sort of lack in that area. The likes of Griffin Logue and Darcy Tucker and Akers leaving the side, and of course their top goal scorer of Royal Lob all leaving the side to just bring in a few mature age recruits through the draft, and of course bring in the main man of Luke Jackson, who for me is probably a player for more of the long run, or a bit of a project player who could be a really good superstar in 3 to 4 years time. I just don't think they're that sort of an appealing side to really push up the ladder. They had a lot of those games last year where it did really matter. They just failed to pile on points, or their defense was too inconsistent. They, of course, got some really young stars like Caleb Sarong and Brayshaw and Jai Miss as well, and they drafted quite well in 2021 too, but yeah, I think 2023 is just going to be a bit of their finding their feet year, a bit of an inconsistent year, but it might be a bit of a blessing in disguise, because maybe they could finish around 10th or 9th next year, but then the year after that, with the strong youth core they do have, they could just catapult into a top 4 contention. But yeah, next year, I just see them as a bit of an inconsistent side. I just don't feel like they'll get enough output from the role plays. I've got them at 10th. Now moving on to the dreaded 9th place, you've got to have a team in here, and I think it will be Port Adelaide, a team that's really going to contend for finals next year. I think just last year was just a year to forget. They were far better than an 11th or 12th place side, and if they weren't 0-5, the start they did have last year, I think they would have made finals potentially last season. But yeah, the likes, a lot of young plays in there, likes of Connor Rosie and Zach Butters were awesome last year. A few list changes they have made, bringing or drafting a lot of long-term sort of spine replacements to replace the likes of Clury and also Tom Jonas as well. But a lot of underachieving plays in that side. Alir Alir, Travis Boak, Ollie Wines, William Drew. I think they had quite underachieving years last year, so I just feel if they could put together a really strong preseason, they could get a little bit more out of the likes of Mitch Georgiadis, and if Todd Marshall can go absolutely huge next year, I like their chances of them making finals next year. So I think they're going to be right in the mix. But yeah, they could fall short in a few games potentially, because I'm just not fully sold on where they could go back to where they were in 2021 and 2022 in that top 4 sort of range. But yeah, contention for finals I think they will be at. But yeah, I've just got them falling short in 9th place. Moving on now into 8th place, and I've got another bold call here in this video today. I reckon the Suns will finally play finals in 2023. I know it's a bit of a left field sort of call there, with a side that's never ever played finals footy to finally do it in 2023, but I just feel like now is their time. They've got a really underrated list and people still sleep on them, which is sort of fair enough because they're one of the lowest supported sides, so there's not really much intimidation in their sort of side when you do verse them, but they just look strong now, and I think that the important thing was they had a lot of close losses, and because of that, they were close from making finals, and the main thing is, as well, they just had a lot of injury woes. Likes of Ben King out for the season, Charlie Ballard, long-term injury. Their 2 main running defenders of Butterick and 𝘬𝐿𝐼 were out with long-term injuries, and of course Will Powell too. They were just stitched up, and now with another year in the system, like the likes of their midfield, Swallow and Noah Anderson and Matt Rowell. Holland's had a really strong second half of the year. The recruits of 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐎𝐥𝐝 and maybe 𝐼𝐻𝐿 kick 70 goals between them. I think they now have the list to really propel into finals contention. I think they will just do it. And of course, in the trade period, they brought in some experienced players, the likes of Jake Steen and of course Berry and Noah Long. Bring over Connor Blakely from Fremantle. They do have now that good blend of experience and also youth. I just think they're going to get the ball rolling next year. If they can keep healthy, they have a strong sort of pre-season. If they can show consistency, that's the main thing as well in 2023. I think they can make finals, and I reckon they will finish in 8th next year. In 7th place, I do have the Sydney Swans. Of course, after their poor 83 point, or 82, whatever it was, huge grand final loss, let's just put it that way. There are going to be a few, head scratches of how they will perform in 2023. I still think they will make finals football. I don't think they will be in top 4 contention. I certainly don't think they'll win the flag or make the grand final. But they still are a very well-run footy club. They've got a tight-knit group. They've got a very talented side. Still a very young list, of course, you can say. But yeah, I can just see them having a few inconsistent performances. Maybe a few of those young players will just be effective, sort of, with how bad that grand final loss was, because it really can affect a few young players in their side. But yeah, they're just a tight-knit group, as I said before. A few recruits like Aaron Francis was quite strong as well. Another year of the McCartan brothers. You expect their young players with another year in the system to just continue that organic growth. I think that will kill the Swans. They'll be, maybe in the mix for top 4. I've just got them sitting at 7th. I think they are a good enough side for finals football, hence why I do have them at 7th. At 6th place now, and I have gone with Collingwood. They are the biggest mystery team, I do think, of 2023. I say that because I think they could finish anywhere from maybe 1st place to 10th place. I think they're going to have another strong year. They were just awesome last year. I know people say, their wins was a fluke. Sort of, yes, I do agree with that, but they were just such a strong side at the same time. Their run and carry, their braveness, their young players, the output they got of their role players was just such a well-balanced side last year. Very unlucky not to make the grand final, and it's a bit of a blessing in disguise, because usually when teams like what the Magpies had, a close finals loss or a very close loss to end their season, that usually gives them, not just them, but any team that has that occur to them, just a really, strong belief that they can bounce back next year and just can really rev up that group. So with their strong preseason, with their list too, young players like Nick Daicos, the Daicos brothers, they could go to the next level. Their key forwards like Ash Johnson and Kruger could really step it up next year. Pendlebury and Jeremy Howe, a few of their experienced players as well, I think can still be strong for the next few years. They're going to be in that mix for top 4, I reckon, next year. Collingwood, maybe a few teams can go to homework on their sort of run and carry play that they're so good at, the Pies, and their transition, but there still will be a strong side in 2023, I do believe. Good contention for top 4. I've got them sitting in that 6th place sort of range. I think, good chance for top 4. But around that sort of mid top 8 side, I've got the Pies. I think they'll sit around in that spot for 2023. In 5th place now, and I've gone with the Carlton Footy Club. I think now, of course, is their time to make finals footy. Let's be honest, they really should have done it in 2022. Were in 8th place or in finals footy every single week until the last round, where they did get knocked off, ironically, by the Collingwood Footy Club for them to finish 9th. But similar to Collingwood, if you have that sort of poor or really disappointing end or close end to your campaign, you can come back strong the next year. And I think Carlton, blessing in disguise, they finished 9th, because they are going to really rev it up next year, I do feel, and are going to be really strong contenders for top 4. Of course, that puts pressure on Michael Voss, but I just feel with the talent on their list, their spine is looking good. They are just ready. I think they're ready now to take that next step. They had a lot of problems with their role players, I don't think, in the second half of the year, but they lacked that sort of outside run. But now that's sort of fixed, I guess, with Blake Acres and Ollie Hollands in that side. If their role players can really get, rolling and get enough output, they're going to be a strong side next year, I reckon. Carlton, their inside game was just awesome. I think that's going to be on repeat. If they can keep healthy as well, they got absolutely stitched up by injuries last year. They're going to blitz next year, I reckon. Carlton, good contention for top 4, and I've got them just sitting outside the top 4 race, sitting them at 5th. Moving on now into the top 4 and kicking off at 4th place, I do have the Melbourne Demons. I believe they will be another strong side in 2023. They are in the prime of their list, I guess you could say. That's probably the best way to describe them, because they have that 25 to 28-year-old range. That's probably their strongest demographic. Petrarca, Clayton Oliver, of course, Stephen May now and Max Gawn are getting on. But yeah, just a strong balanced side, I guess you could say. Harry Petty, really awesome last year. The key forward still, makes me a bit worried of, can they, put on that scoreboard pressure, which they really did fail to do in the second half of last year. Hence why they did lose games and did fall out in straight sets. But with Tom McDonald back in that side, that really gives them back their structure. So if he can keep healthy, I think the Demons will again be a strong side next year. But I feel like at the same time, a lot of teams will do their homework on the Demons, sort of. So I feel like they'll be a less intimidating side, I guess you could say. So I think they will be falling back to the pack, sort of. They won't be like the clear-cut top 2 side like they were last year and the year before. But yeah, top 4 side, they're still a really strong side with their midfield. And yeah, just their all-round balance. So yeah, I've got them at 4th place in my early ladder predictions. Moving on now into 3rd place, and I do have the Richmond Tigers. I believe they will be back in premiership contention like they were from those premiership era days of 2017 to 2020, because they've just made such good improvements to their list. I know a lot of people want to write them off. They say, oh, their premiership days are over, but it's just hard to say no with their side. I like to describe their 2022 season as a bit of a what-if year, because they were sort of like the vice versa of Collingwood. They just had a lot of, instead of close wins, they had a lot of close losses. So they were a really good chance to make top 4 last year. Unable to do it. Fell short in finals. As I said before with a few other teams, a close loss in finals usually can mean a stronger season the next year. But the likes of course, Taranto and Hopper, their main worry was the contested game. That's really what tore them apart with a lot of their losses. But just 2 strong additions in that side will really improve them. Of course, their old heads like Tom Lynch now and Jack Riewoldt, they still will have really strong years. I think Lynch is a genuine chance, if healthy, to win another Coleman medal. And then, of course, a few younger players in there, like Josh Gibcus now a year in the system. Noel Cumberland, they had a lot of revelations with their young players. Tyler Sonzi's another one to name. Bolter has still really good potential to be one of the best key defenders in that competition. They've just got a really good balance with old players and young players in their side. Rioli, Baker in there too. Strong additions. I think they will be top 4. They're just a deadly side, and if they can fix up the contested game, which they have brought in Hopper and Taranto to fix that, I think they will be top 4 in 2023. Moving on now into 2nd place, and I've gone with the Geelong Cats. I think a few people will make the odd remark or two saying, oh, they're going to have a premiership hangover. They're going to be maybe in the 6th to 10th sort of range. But I just can't say yes to that because of the off-season activity. Bringing in the likes of Ollie Henry and Tanner Bruin and Jack Bowes, and of course also Joel Clark in the draft. They've brought in some really good youth names into their side, and there's now a good mix between the young players and the older players. Of course, Tom Stewart and Cameron are now getting on, and Mitch Duncan and Rowan too, and Blitzars, but they've just got a good mix. And, a really well-coached and well-run football club on top of that too. I just can't see him outside the bottom 6. So, yeah, I feel like maybe they're a chance to be 5th or 6th, but I just think they're going to be another strong team in 2023. Good balance in their side. Young players that are just really going to start. I think Henry could be a genuine superstar too. And I've got them sitting at 2nd place. And now for who I think will be the minor premiers in 2023. I did have them last year in my predictions. I'm going to have them in there again this year. The Brisbane Lions. They failed to make the top 4. Quite a bit of an underachieving second half of the season, I did have to say, from them. But they still made the final 4. So in a way, they did sort of finish top 4 in a way in 2022. But they have had the best off-season I can think out of any club in quite a while. The names they did bring in, the likes of Jack Gunston as a bit of a extra focal point in that attack, and the Bulldogs' best and fairest winner, Josh Dunkley, to bring in some more firepower into their midfield and forward line. The young players now, another year in the system, the likes of Cadeem Coleman, I really do rate. Cam Rayner, Devon Robinson, Darcy Wilmot, they've got some good young players in there now who can really take extra responsibility into 2023. And of course, their draft as well. Will Ashcroft and Jasper Fletcher could be genuine first team selections from round 1, especially Will Ashcroft. He looks like such a professional generational player, and I still think is sort of slept on in a way. He could be maybe the clear-cut Rising Star winner if he is to play next year. But yeah, I mean, they've got one of the best lists now out of any team in the competition. Just such a good looking midfield. Their backline still maybe has a few question marks, but you know, the likes of if 𝗍𝗏 can get back to his best, and if Marcus Adams can keep healthy, and especially the main man as well of Harris Andrews, if he can get back to his sort of career best form, I just think they're going to be such a strong outfit in 2023. It's just quite simply put for me, the list now they do have, they are wanting to really take that next step into a grand final position, and I just feel like they're going to blitz it next year, and they will be the minor premiers of 2023. So everyone, there is my early 2023 ladder predictions. Feel free to let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Everyone, love to hear your fellas' thoughts. Of course, early predictions, ladder predictions as well, they always cause debate, so I'd love to hear your fellas' thoughts down below, because they're such opinionated sort of topics. But that's just my 2 cents of what I think early on the 2023 AFL ladder will look like. So everyone, that is the end of today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you went on to enjoy. Really keen for this season to kick off next year. It is still a few months away, but the fixture will come out in a few days, I'm pretty sure, so I am pretty much certain to do a live reaction or just a reaction to that fixture when it does come out. So thank you once again, fellas, for watching today's video, and until next time, I will talk to you later. See you later, fellas.